If you're looking for a key player for your team and you have not put the time, money, and effort into creating your brand, and your competitor has done those things and they're looking for the same person, most often they're going to win. They're going to get that candidate.
You're listening to the Profit by Design podcast, episode 11. You work hard in your business. On the Profit by Design podcast, we ask the big question. What has your business done for you lately? Hi, I'm Dr. Sabrina Starling, the business psychologist, the author of How to Hire the Best, and your co-host on the Profit by Design podcast. Weekly, my co-host, Mike Bruno, and I bring you tips, tools, and strategies from our own experiences and from the experiences of our guests, who are entrepreneurial thought leaders and real-life entrepreneurs, all to support you in making intentionally profitable and sustainable business decisions to live the lifestyle you desire. Hey, profit designers. In just a minute, you'll get to listen in on a conversation Mike Bruno and I had with our friend Mike Ciavolino. Mike Ciavolino and I teamed up together in the last year to bring Tap the Potential clients and subscribers a webinar on recruitment marketing to help them implement strategies from my book, How to Hire the Best, so that they could use recruitment marketing more effectively to attract A players in their small businesses. That webinar was so well received. We're teaming up again in 2019 to bring you an entire webinar series on recruitment marketing for small business owners. But for now, the one webinar that we did earlier this year is available as a bonus clinic in my online course, How to Hire the Best. On today's episode, Mike Bruno and I will be asking Mike Ciavolino what we small business owners should be thinking about when it comes to recruitment marketing. So here's what you need to know about Mike Ciavolino. He really brings a unique and very practical perspective on marketing and advertising. He's the owner of Shore Creative Group, and he's spent over 30 years in the marketing industry. Mike focuses his energies on helping clients develop brand strategies and marketing campaigns to better position themselves and win with today's changing customers. At Shore Creative Group, Mike and his team help their clients develop a unique employer brand while implementing the latest tools and techniques in recruitment marketing. Now, here's something else you need to know. Be sure to hang in till the very end of the podcast because you're going to want to hear about the special gift that Mike has for us. After you hear what he shares with us, you'll be chomping at the bit to get your hands on this. It's a really good one. So let's dive in. Okay, Mike, welcome to the Profit by Design podcast. We're so excited to finally get you on the show. I know you've been listening for a while since we launched, and you've been a big supporter as we've gotten the word out about the podcast. So we really appreciate that. I am excited to have you here because you and I have teamed up previously to talk recruitment marketing. And that's an area that is kind of an unusual specialty in the marketing world. And when it comes to attracting A players to a small business, thinking through recruitment marketing can really be invaluable. And especially if we think about it before we need to hire, right?
Well, that's exactly the case, Sabrina. And first of all, thank you so much for asking me, you and Mike, to be on the show this morning. Honored to be here. But really, recruitment marketing has transformed over the past few years to the point where a company's most important brand really is no longer their consumer brand, but their talent brand. Because if you think about it, companies make promises to their customers, whether it be the quality of a product, whether it be the quality of the service. And that could be anything from a hospital to a financial institution or anything in between. But the fact of the matter is, if they do not have the right talent in place, they cannot deliver on those promises they make to their customers.
It's a really good point, Mike. And I think, it is somewhat of a transformation, right? I mean, years ago, I think businesses would just cast a net, right? And say, put an ad in the newspaper or just even run something on Craigslist or a job posting. And we would be flooded with, potential talent, right? And, at this point, the landscape is dramatically changed. So not only are we casting that net, just like creating a lead funnel, right? But then once they land on our websites, we have to be fully prepared to attract those A players, to actually have them follow up with us, right? And actually fill out an application or even contact us to be interviewed for the position.
Mike, that's a great point. And in fact, there's a term for it in recruitment marketing. What you alluded to initially, it's called spray and pray, which is just to put your job posts, anywhere and everywhere. Well, let's put it on Indeed, let's put it on Craigslist, thinking about the tactics rather than the overall strategy. And the other point that you made is also very important and problematic for employers now, in that the drop-off rate from applicant tracking systems, or in the application process, point from which the candidate has taken an interest in your position, wherever they may see it, has started the application process, but then for some reason has sort of dropped off. Similar to the way Amazon has cart abandonment on their page, the same is true for applicant abandonment on websites. And it's a big problem for companies that don't have the proper candidate experience in place.
So what contributes to that? Why would an applicant start filling out an application and then just stop and abandon it?
So depending upon the size of the company, if we're talking about an organization that uses some sort of applicant tracking system or form fill, a lot of companies just don't get this right, where they will make the candidate fill out a number of forms, fill out a profile, upload a resume, go through a number of screening questions. And, what we have to recognize at this point in time is that with the unemployment rate so low, the best candidates are already gainfully employed. So they are just not going to make the investment in going through the company's unwieldy processes in order just to submit their resume. They'll just take their resume elsewhere.
Wow. Okay. So that is pretty important for us to think about. A lot of our listeners are very small businesses, and thinking through the hiring process and the whole funnel that you would want to take an applicant through is a whole new way of thinking to begin with. So I can see how we would just inadvertently put barriers in place that would prevent somebody who is gainfully employed. A players, they're typically employed elsewhere. They're not actively on Craigslist or Indeed looking for work. They've probably found you through word of mouth, most likely.
Yeah.
And then the point that you're making about the effort, and that if you have to do too much, you're just going to give up, because what's the point? So what should an employer be thinking about? How do you smooth that process out?
Well, sort of starting from the beginning, employers need to, when considering their onboarding, their recruitment processes, they need to think like marketers think, which is, and oftentimes not the typical hat that the small business owner is wearing. So they need to, from the get-go, sell the sizzle rather than the steak, which is the opportunity. And when I say the sizzle, I'm talking about content about why your organization is such a great place to work. And that could be posting on your social media channels about things that are unique about your organization, having a blog that gives job seekers or people in your industry tips, live streaming events that you can also share on social media. So immediately, candidates their interest is piqued by your organization. And then that needs to be followed up with a applying process that's simple and seamless, where the candidate, in this case, it's typically an email or something like that. If it's a small employer, they're able to easily apply for a job and then quickly get a response from the employer saying, hey, in receipt, love this, and we'll get back to you with next steps.
Okay. So having just one action that they're taking, they're submitting their application and resume, and that's it. And then there's a next step. So we're kind of feeding them through the process, just very much like good marketing, thinking through one step at a time, but continuing to be that employer who's responding and engaging. So that probably needs to be automated, right? Because if I'm a busy business owner and I'm out in the field, an application comes in, like that's not high on my priority list. I've got projects that I'm dealing with.
That's exactly right, Dr. Sabrini. I would say that an automated email that also lays out next steps, what the applicant can expect during the process, where they're going to go from here, what they can expect when they can expect to hear from someone, just sort of managing the expectation level throughout the process.
So that's, my brain's exploding right now. It's the hiring process is obviously extremely difficult, right, for a lot of small businesses. And, I think there's been times, even in my career of hiring, where you get so fed up with the applicants that you're getting because there's a certain amount of underqualified applicants and you're trying to weed through what you have to try to pick out the A players. But I think the point that I missed there is really creating a relationship building environment that, like you said, walks those better applicants or the A players through a process that's welcoming, that gets them excited about continuing along the process, right? Because you may drop some of those people right from the get-go with just a poor, just the first step of the communication. If it's poor, they're just going to go to somebody else who maybe has, a better action item right from the starting gate.
Yeah, Mike, that's true. It's an initial red flag with this prized possession that you've worked so hard and spent money to try to attract in the first place. I would even suggest for small business owners that, it may not be necessary or appropriate for them to have a large, expensive applicant tracking system. But what they can do is add a page to their website that talks about the experience of working for the organization, how the organization treats its employees, and perhaps put some testimonials from their existing staff, a few videos, and just something to get the candidate excited about working there.
So you basically create a landing page almost, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a good idea.
So I know from working with a lot of small business owners on their hiring, that piece right there, how do you get a testimonial from an employee baffles some of them because that's kind of an awkward conversation to have. One of the things that we've started doing is when we are helping a business owner with hiring is we survey not all of their team members, but their A-player team members and ask them about their experience working for that business owner and in that business and how they would describe the culture. And that really has been an interesting jumping off point for developing testimonials for a career landing page, developing videos that you would put on a career landing page, because then it's easy to go back to those employees and say, hey, you said this about our company. Would you mind getting on video and talking about that?
Yeah, that's exactly the way to do it, Dr. Sabrina. I would definitely recommend, small businesses that they use these opportunities such as surveys, such as any sort of feedback or engagement they get with, and that was an excellent point you made, that to sort of use your star people for that, the persona that if you could clone these individuals, you so desperately would to create an organization of these like-minded folks, and then use that as your content for your testimonials.
Well, and just speaking to your point about cloning, one of the things that I picked up on is as you were laying out how we should design the process that an applicant's going to go through us, you were really saying we need to design the process around our ideal applicants going through this process and the experience we want them to have. Kind of like in our businesses, we want to design our processes around our best clients and customers and the experience we want them to have. And too often on that end, we put barriers in place because we're trying to deal with problems from poor customers. And so I can see how that just translates into the hiring process. We can inadvertently put barriers in place because we've been so burned by bad applicants in the past. So holding in mind that ideal applicant and how we want to nurture them through the process with us.
One of the things we try to help our clients do, no matter what their size, is create, you just alluded to it, a candidate persona of what is the ideal picture of the individual that you're looking for. And that's everything from their hard skills to their soft skills to, anything that's important to you as an organization to have. And maybe some of them you didn't consider until you had someone on board and like, wow, this is great. If I had 4 more people like this, we would just be, growing by leaps and bounds. So by creating that candidate persona, it gives clarity to the business owner on not only what kind of person they're looking for, but oftentimes where they should be looking for that person.
That's a good point. And when I think about this, I almost think about, small business owner, I have to kind of take some barriers down and some walls down and become a little bit vulnerable when I'm creating this page and this process to walk these people through. So how vulnerable do you think I need to be as a small business owner, and how much should I lay out there, just to all these strangers? Like, what am I laying out on this page in this content to really try to get them to know me, my business, and what I'm looking for? And, because in a certain sense, it almost feels like, well, we have to be very strict and rigid, right? Because this is a business and they're going to come in and we need them to work and we're going to pay them to work. But what I'm hearing is the right thing to do is to really say, look, we're really looking for some really good people to bring onto our team. And you really kind of have to, take a different approach, right? And kind of have some vulnerability there.
Well, you have to. And the thing is, as you know, more often than not, a small business has been burned in the past by bringing on a hire that didn't work out. And for small business owners, that could be a major setback. If you're a team of 4 or 5 or 6 folks, one bad hire can really set you back, and then also make you not be vulnerable and make you not be sort of open to bringing in the right kind of person. So in spite of that, as difficult as it is, employers need to be, as you appropriately said there, is vulnerable and really talk about, listen, here's who we are. We're not something else. We're not trying to be anything else, but this is who we are, and this is the fit we're looking for.
Mm-hmm. Where does one start? So let's say, so here I am, I've tried to hire people many different ways. I'm looking to expand my team. Where do you recommend that this begins? Is it, sitting there for a couple days, writing down some of these things? Am I going to run the ad first and see what happens and create it after? Where's my starting point, and kind of what's the next step after that?
Well, oftentimes employers are a little bit between a rock and a hard place here, in that it's like, hey, I need a hire now. So this is all great. We need somebody now. So it's okay to run some ads if you need to. But what you have to be thinking about and doing is sort of thinking like a marketer for your talent brand. And that would be, as I mentioned earlier, perhaps setting up the landing page on your site, making sure that if your organization isn't big enough to have specific channels dedicated to recruitment on social media, then at least have some of that content be dedicated to what's going on in your company from an employer-employee perspective. And then I would also suggest, and it doesn't have to be expensive or that time-consuming, but creating a blog on your site that also talks about the unique attributes as you as an employer. Because rather than just sort of selling all the time, as marketers would do when they're considering their products and services, they're, creating an awareness about them and creating a personality about them and getting people excited from that point of view. And also, most importantly, giving some value. So I think you need to sort of create that candidate experience and your employer persona, if that makes sense.
Hey, Mike, that's got me thinking. For those of us who wear a lot of hats and juggle a lot of responsibilities, a blog sounds like a lot of work. And knowing you, I bet you have some tips that you could share with us to help us come up with content for a blog, even if we really don't have time to focus on that. So I'm going to ask you to share those tips with us. But before we do that, let's take a break and hear about today's episode sponsors. This episode of the Profit by Design podcast is brought to you by Contractor Business Solutions, the Small Business Consulting Group, and my online course, How to Hire the Best. Since this is our Thanksgiving Day episode, I decided I wanted to do something a little special for you. In the past, we've offered a 40% savings on the online How to Hire the Best course, and that's been very well received. So I thought in honor of Thanksgiving and all those Black Friday specials going on, we'd do a little Black Friday special on the How to Hire the Best course. So if you plan to hire anytime in the next 6 weeks or anytime in 2019, the How to Hire the Best course will tell you all you need to know to make sure you bring on an A player for your next hire. You can save 40% on the full registration by using code THANKFUL. Register at tapthepotential.com/join. And we'll link to that in today's show notes. Visit our website at profitbydesignpodcast.com to learn more about our sponsors and to catch previous episodes of the podcast. And by the way, while you're there, be sure to check out the conversation between Mike and I that 95% of entrepreneurs never have. We blow up the dirtiest little secret in the entrepreneurial world.
There's a lot of freelance writers out there that will do blogs for as low as $50 or $100 per post. So it would require you to just consider some topics. And what I would say would be, think about your industry, think about what makes you cool as an employer, think about your journey and your history as an employer. Think about some of the things that your employees think about when they were coming on board or while they're working for you now. And all of those things can be fuel for content ideas for your blog.
So I'm thinking like even pictures from way back when the company started, that could be fun to put on that kind of blog, right?
It'd be great because that sort of shows your initial enthusiasm and why you got into it for the first place. And, someone out there might be considering 2 or 3 or 4 different offers, but they'll say, wow, this particular company, I like this business owner's enthusiasm. I like their location. Their office looks cool. I like a small environment. This is for me. They might not see that on an ad on Craigslist or Indeed.
Well, and I'm also thinking, it doesn't have to be the business owner or even hiring someone to write everything for your blog. But if you have a team member who's great at taking photos, getting them to be mindful of taking photos, especially if you're doing any team building activities like a special dinner or pizza party or whatever, and just have someone there snapping photos and uploading those to the blog, because that could then be put out into social media, right?
That's correct. And even when you go to conferences or trade shows, at, events, anywhere that you are that sort of gives your company a personality is an opportunity to talk about your employee experience in your organization.
So, Mike, I know that you also have a really interesting idea about recognizing employees. So can you speak a little bit about that?
So it's an easy and really one of the best ways to create or help promote your employer brand. And that is taking every opportunity that you can to recognize your employees for a job well done. If they went above and beyond the call in your office, or to help a colleague, or more importantly, to help out a client, or doing some charity work. For example, we have a financial institution as a client, and this is a couple of years ago, but it's an important story. We had Hurricane Sandy up here in New Jersey, where I live, and this financial institution gave their employees days off with pay so that they could volunteer for Habitat for Humanity and help folks who lost their houses rebuild homes. So not only were they, genuinely interesting and give it back to the community that they're part of, but it was just fantastic content to share with potential employees who would say, wow, I got to be part of something like that. And they paid them. They didn't dock them as a PTO day or anything like that. So it was really a wonderful experience. So I would invite small businesses to look for those types of opportunities to showcase what's so great about working for you.
Absolutely. And then if you're putting that out there in social media, I know your team members feel really proud of that too. And they're going to want to share that content in their social media channels, which really starts to get the word out about the company.
That's exactly right. And in this particular case, Habitat for Humanity also shared it to their legion of followers. So it was good all the way around.
Beautiful. So let's talk a little bit about, where do you see business owners missing opportunities to develop their employer brand?
Well, a lot of small businesses don't have really any of these things in place. And even, larger companies that have, 50 to 75 employees, they'll come to us and, ask for our help in getting some employees to come on board. And, what we'll find is that they'll have none of these assets in place. So, really just developing out your employer brand is a key component to this. In the same way you would market your products and services, you need to market your company's job opportunities.
Yeah. One of the things that I've started telling business owners is at that point where you have steady lead generation for customers and clients in your business, that's really the point that you need to start thinking about recruitment and hiring. Because as soon as you solve the conversion problem and you have good, solid conversion going on, you're going to have more work than what you can handle yourself, and you're going to need to be hiring. So if you can start with the employer branding, once that lead generation is solid in the business, you start thinking ahead. And it does not, I mean, if you're just starting out with this, it doesn't have to be hours each week. It's just being more mindful of finding those opportunities to start building that employer brand and putting things on a blog and a career page, right?
Yes, that's true. And I wouldn't it's easy to get caught up in sort of the chicken and the egg scenario here where, well, I need great people to attract new business, but I need new business to get more people on board. So you almost want to create a blueprint of what the organization might look like if you had 6 or 7 or 8 more, customers come on board or some big orders. And so outline in advance what you would like that to look like, the workflow process, the type of people you would need in place, who those people are, what is their profile, what roles do they fill, and then sort of build that out, even if you don't have it existing. Because if you start to get business in and you don't have the infrastructure to support it, we know what's going to happen. It's not going to be a good experience for you, for your customers, or for your existing team members for that matter.
I have one question relating to the content and the blog content that we would potentially put on our website to attract some of these new employees and kind of get them in our process. Do we have to worry at all about what we're putting in there if our potential clients are also reading it? I mean, I 100% believe that it is absolutely okay, because it just shows that we're a good company and we're on the forefront of, looking for great talent to add to the team to be able to provide our product or service. But what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that you have to put it out there. You mean featuring your own people in the...
Well, I mean, even just, let's say if I was writing a blog about, just attracting new talent, like I think in the past, a lot of it was kind of behind the scenes. So if I'm going and selling myself, let's say if I'm going and selling a new custom home to somebody and I'm telling them how great my team is and I have 5 people in the office and 15 people in the field, and then they go on my website and they see that I'm looking for all of these people, right? Are they going to say, well, didn't he just tell me he had this full team? And why is he asking for all this stuff? And you might get a client that does question it. But, as a business owner, do you think we need to worry about that at all, or we're good?
No, I don't. And I think it can be explained away by saying, listen, due to our growth, our impending growth, this is why we need these people. And that's something that gets people excited. Wow, these guys are on the upswing. I want to be part of it. I want to get in on the front line. And the employer has the opportunity to spin it that way, too.
It's from the angle of we're a growing company and I'm planning ahead so that your needs are attended to and future clients and customers' needs are attended to.
Here's where we're headed. Get on board now. This is an amazing opportunity to stretch your skills for growth while you join our growth.
Okay. So I'm a busy business owner. And I realize I can't do this myself, and I'm going to go looking for a professional to help me with recruitment marketing. And I know, Mike, this is a service that you offer through your business, Your Creative. What are some questions that a business owner should have in mind as they start to seek out someone to help them with their recruitment marketing? What should they look for?
Well, if they're looking for a recruitment marketing agency, there are many out there that do that. And so I would first want to take a look at other employers, maybe in my size or my industry or within my scope of work that they've done, and see what kind of, sort of look under the hood. What sort of case studies do they have? What was the deliverable like? Can I speak to some of those other clients that you've served to sort of gain an understanding of their level of satisfaction and success with you? And I would say that doing that kind of due diligence before rushing into it would be pretty important.
So that's a really good point. I would want to talk to the business owners that have used that company previously for recruitment marketing, and were they successful in hiring as a result of those recruitment marketing efforts would be a big question.
I have a question then. So, let's say I am a small business under 10 employees or, 10, 15 employees. What could I expect to budget for, maybe an entry level, mid-level recruitment, package from a firm like yours? And What's kind of that range? What am I even looking at?
Great question. Tough to answer, but it's a great question. There's a number of variables that are involved in that, and I'm not ducking that question, Mike. I swear to you.
Can you do it for $100 a square foot?
But, what industry are we talking about? For example, and this is one of the variables, I'm going to get to a few of them here. If it's healthcare, for example, if it's nursing, well, the shortage in nursing right now is at epic proportions for many reasons. Retirement of baby boomers that are just leaving the workforce, folks not going into nursing, the lack of organizations' ability to sort of create their own talent pipeline. So as a result, the cost of hiring a nurse in a specific skill set, say operating room or emergency department with experience now, say 3 to 5 years, something like that. For that job, you can expect to spend approximately $2,500 depending upon your location. That's for one position. Mm-hmm. So you'd have to consider your industry, the specific skill sets you're looking for. The more experienced the individual, the more it's going to cost you. So that's position based. You also have to factor in what it would cost you to do all these other things, the landing page, the blog, and your social media setup as well. So that could be an outlay of a couple of $100 per month.
Okay.
Because that's creating a system that you're going to use over and over, right?
Right. And if employers are out there thinking, wow, I don't really want to spend $400 or $500 or $600 a month or whatever it might be to do this, I would say to think of it from this perspective, that companies with a strong employer brand, they really do have more engaged employees. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But one of them is, think about it if you're an employee in a company and you're overwhelmed with work, but you see that your employer is out there marketing more opportunities, looking to bring more people in, looking to make your life better. So you're like, okay, I'm in because the cavalry is coming, or at least they're trying to bring the cavalry in because you're telling the employee, we hear you. We know that we need more staff. We're trying to grow and we're trying to make the entire operation better. So that's one thing. And having enthusiastic employees is an important factor of growth in the company because when they can talk passionately about their work, as you alluded to earlier, Dr. Sabrina, when you give them a chance to sort of review the company and have a chance to have their voice heard, they feel more empowered and engaged about where they work and the work that they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'm just thinking about a lot of our clients that we have in small groups who initially come to us because they're struggling to hire and attract the team that they need to grow. And what ends up happening over time is they put more and more emphasis on creating that great place to work because initially it comes out of, oh my gosh, I know I need to do this because I have to attract great team members. But what really ends up happening is their current team members get happier and happier. So your retention goes up. And, just to offset, what you're talking about initial layout of costs and then an ongoing monthly cost, when you factor in the cost of turnover, especially in a small business, like if you're a 5-person company and you're losing one person, that's a significant hit to your company. So creating that great place to work and then intentionally documenting it, like having somebody take pictures, capturing things on video, putting it on a blog, that just kind of reinforces and keeps the whole cycle going.
That's true. That's a great point. And there was a study that was conducted recently by an organization called the Boston Consulting Group. And it showed that organizations that invest in employer branding can experience revenue growth as much as 3.5%. That was a study that they did with small businesses. And I think a couple of factors are there. As you just had mentioned, if you're looking for a key player for your team and you have not, put the time, money, and effort into creating your brand, and your competitor has done those things and they're looking for the same person, most often they're going to win. They're going to get that candidate. So now you've spent the money and you're still spending money and you're spinning your wheels looking for that person without doing any of the sort of quote unquote back work to set your brand up.
Okay. So the other thought that I had a minute ago that I want to get your input on is recruiters. So how does recruitment marketing compare in cost to a recruiter? So if I'm doing recruitment marketing, would I still be hiring a recruiter or do the two go hand in hand? How does that work?
It depends on how many employees that you want or need to bring in. You may want to hire an outside recruiter to do this or bring one on staff if you're going to sort of develop your own HR team, to do that work, because you're already wearing 3 or 4 or 5 different hats, sales and invoicing and everything, servicing the business. So as we said before, it's important to get back to people, as soon as they show an interest in the opportunity. So, as the needs become more significant, you should consider having someone in place to do that for you.
And I think even with that said, that's more of, the actionable deliverable side. But even if we have a recruiter, we still need to make sure that we have a good employee brand on our material, right? So we still should have website content that speaks to those potential people, because I know even if I'm, searching around for a job, right, I'm likely to go then visit their website. And if I see a very lame team page and, there's really nothing on there, I may just say, well, yeah, this recruiter called me, but I have to make a decision. And, website A is speaking to me and website B is not, even though maybe website B is the better company for me.
Yeah, that's true. You really need to put those elements in place. And it doesn't have to be as, overwhelming a task as you think. I would suggest to small businesses out there considering this that take a look at some of your competitors and what they're doing. Take a look at some of their sites. What are they saying to their candidates? And not that you want to sort of, poach the content. I guess you could if you wanted to. But it would get you in the mind frame of surfacing out what makes you unique as an employer and be able to talk about those things and set it up in a similar fashion, like you said, with a landing page and social channels and content like that.
Well, I can see that would be really helpful, because if you see what your competitors are doing, you're going to know right away how you're different. And then you can put that front and center on your careers page and really, really stand out. So, Mike, I know you have a gift for our listeners. Do you want to share that with them?
Yes, I do. And sort of analogous to what we're talking about, Dr. Sabrina, but we have for your listeners a white paper on 50 great content ideas for your employer branding and recruitment marketing. And this really is a great list to keep things top of mind as to where you can find great content right around you and among you in your office, with your team, with yourself, with your clients, with your vendors, with the charitable work that you do in your community or within your industry, the trade shows that you go to. So this is all packaged, one handy document where employers can look to and gain ideas for content they can deploy to help support their employer brand.
Fantastic. How do our
Pleasure.
listeners get a hold of that?
So that can be downloaded from our website, and I can give that URL. It is shorecreativegroup.com/content ideas. And they just go there, and the PDF is free to download for your listeners. That's shorecreativegroup/content ideas. Actually, shorecreativegroup.com, pardon me.
/content. Okay, so we will get a link to that in our show notes. And Mike, if someone wants to get in contact with you for help with their recruitment marketing, what's the best way to reach you?
They can send me an email. I'll be happy to answer it right away. And that's Mike@shorecreativegroup.com.
Thank you, Mike. It was great having you here with us today.
Thank you so much. It was an honor to be on your podcast. I love listening to it and excited to be here today with you both. Thank you so much.
Thank you for spending time with us today. Join our conversation in the Profit by Design podcast Facebook group. Share your thoughts on today's episode, ask us questions, and let us know what you want to hear about next. Visit our website at profitbydesignpodcast.com to access resources from our sponsors and tools we've created for you. Subscribe to the show on whatever platform you're listening to right now. There's a subscribe button right there. Go ahead and hit it so that you always get a notification when we release a new episode. And finally, share our podcast with a friend if you know a friend who would enjoy it. Thanks again for listening. This is real life business. Keep your chin up, keep moving forward. You got this.